So we have just studied about correlation and couple of ways of measuring correlation, right? We studied Pearson correlation coefficient, Spearman rank correlation coefficient, etc. But you might wonder, what are the applications of correlation, right? So let me give you a few examples from a wide spectrum of areas, right? One very interesting example. Again, we are studying correlation and not causation. I just want to make that clear. We are not saying what causes what. All that we are saying is, yes, this and that are correlated. We don't know whether this causes that. For example, right? So an interesting question is the salary of a person, is salary correlated with income? Sorry, is salary correlated with sorry, not with income, obviously salary and income are the same. Is it correlated with the square feet of your home? Is it correlated with the square footage of your home? Okay, it's a very important question. Here we are saying whether we are asking a very simple question: is salary correlated with the square footage of your home? We are not saying, we are not, again, this is very important, we are not measuring whether people who have high salary, or does higher salary cause, or does higher salary uh, uh, give you the leverage to buy higher square footage home. We are not saying that. We're not saying that salary causes higher square footage of home or lower square footage of home. We are not saying that. All we are saying is salary correlated with it? Right? This is important, right? Now you might wonder, why is this important? Because imagine if I'm a real estate company, or if I'm a real estate broker, okay? If I'm a real estate brokerage, okay? Now I can suggest you, of course, if you share your salary information with me, and if I know that higher salary folks tend to look for higher square footage home. Suppose if I just know this correlation, I'm not saying that salary causes you to look for higher square footage home. I'm not saying that. If these two are correlated, if I'm a real estate broker who asks you to fill a form, and if that form has some salary brackets, okay, then I can easily say that people, because from my own experience, right, and by looking at the data, typically people who have higher salary tend to look for higher square footage home. So a real estate brokerage can give you a form which you can fill: name, phone number, salary range. It can say what is your salary range. As you fill in the salary range, they can roughly estimate what square footage home would you be interested in, and they would only spend time showing you those square footage homes. Isn't it? Very, very relevant problem. So the next similar example is years of study, is number of years of study, years of education or study. Okay. Is this correlated? With income? With income. Right? Somebody who drops out after their school, okay, they have studied for your kindergarten, which is 2 years, plus 12 years. So they have studied for 14 years. Okay. People, 2 years of kindergarten, again, this changes from country to country. 2 years of kindergarten, 12 years of pre-college, plus let's say undergraduate degree, plus 4 years, right? That is 18 years of study. Okay. Somebody who studies master's degree, 2 more years, 20 years. Somebody who pursues PhD, right? 2 plus maybe 4 more years, right? 24 years. So people, or somebody who drops out of school, let's say after the 10th grade or 10th class, right? Only 12 years of study. Now, does this number of years of education or number of years of study, does it correlate with income? Again, remember, we are not talking about causation. We are not saying, does more number of years of education cause you to income, or does it result, or does it cause higher income? No, we are not saying that. All that we are saying here is, in the data, do we observe that the number of years of education is in any way correlated with income? Right? Fair enough. Again, this is very important, because imagine if you're working in the education ministry, okay, if you're working in education ministry, or in the labor department, or in the labor ministry, right? This data is extremely important for you, because if you want your state or country or city to have higher incomes, you would encourage more years of study if you know that more the number of years of education, the more is the possible income. If you know this for a fact, if you just know this correlation, if you're an education ministry or labor ministry, you would encourage your citizens or the people who are living in your county, state, district, or the country. You would encourage them to get more years of study because that would improve their income levels, right? So here, these are all simple examples, right? Again, let's take another example. Again, this is from e-commerce. Okay, this is from e-commerce. Let's assume you're on a website like Amazon.com, right? Let's assume you're on a website like Amazon.com. A company like Amazon would like to understand, is the time spent on my web page in the last 24 hours, right? Is this correlated with, okay, the time spent on my web page in the last 24 hours? Is it correlated with, okay, the money spent in the next 24 hours on the website? In the next 24 hours. Fair enough. Let's assume. So what are we saying here? All that we are saying, again, there are two variables here. For every customer who visits Amazon, we can measure how much time they're spending on Amazon.com. So let's assume we're at time T. Okay, I can look at all the last 24 hours of data, and I can measure how much time was spent by a customer in the last 24 hours. This is time spent. Okay, let's assume I spend some 30 minutes on Amazon.com, browsing through multiple products, all of that. Does this now correlate with how much money? Let's assume I spent 30 minutes on Amazon.com, and let's assume I bought $20 worth of items in the next 24 hours. Okay, other person who spent, like, let's say 60 minutes ended up buying, let's say, some $100 worth of products. Okay, etc. Let's assume you have this data for millions of customers. Of course, Amazon has, I think, close to 200 million customers worldwide, right? Roughly, give or take, right? I think this is a public number to the best of my knowledge, right? Now, this is very important because if Amazon knows that as people spend more time on the website in the last 24 hours, their money spent on the next 24 hours also increases. Let's say they know this because of the correlation. Now, they can now design their website or modify their website to encourage people to spend more time on the website itself. Very, very important, right? This is super duper important, isn't it? So this is a very, very simple example of what e-commerce players use. Right? Again, just like the time spent, right? There could be another metric, okay? In e-commerce again, let's assume we have another metric, which is number of unique users, number of unique visitors to my website versus number of unique visitors in a day, let's say, versus the dollar sales in a day. Okay, so let's assume these are two variables. Suppose these are the number of unique visitors visiting my e-commerce website in a day. This is the total amount of sales, the dollar amount of sales in a day. So let's assume the day I had, let's say, 100,000 users. Let's say my sales were, let's say, $1 million. Okay. Other day when I had 120K users, my sales were, let's say, 1.6 million. So on and so forth. Now, if I know that these two are correlated, which means as the number of unique visitors increases, my sales also will increase. Now, this e-commerce website like Amazon would now try to increase the number of unique visitors in a day to their website because they know that as this increases, their sales also would increase. And which company doesn't want their sales to increase? Very simple correlation. Lot of e-commerce companies actually do analyses like this. Because this is very simple. Because the moment I know that number of unique visitors, if it increases, my sales will increase. Then I'll try a lot of experiments, I'll try a lot of stuff on increasing the number of unique visitors in a day. By either giving new advertisements, by sending new emails, by updating the mobile app, by giving deals, whatever. Okay, because I know that as this increases, if this increases, that's a brilliant thing. Now if this is easy to change, if I can somehow manipulate this number easily by either giving deals, right, or giving some discounts, or announcing things like Prime Day, right? If I can somehow modify this, I can certainly increase this, and that's a great thing, especially for companies, right? Similarly, let's take another example for correlation, right? There are hundreds of these examples, by the way. I've given you a few examples here. Let's look at an example in medicine. Okay. So let's say you have a medicine. Okay. Now, does the dosage, let's say the dosage of a drug or a medicine, okay, or a tablet, okay, does the dosage of a medicine, is it correlated with, let's say, a reduction in let's say blood sugar? Let's assume this is a medicine that is given to diabetic patients. Okay. Now, does the dosage correlate with the reduction in blood sugar level? Very simple. If I'm given, let's say, 1 mg of this medicine versus 2 mg of this medicine versus 3 mg, right? When I give 1 mg, the blood sugar level reduces by, let's say, some X count. When I change by 2 mg, some Y. When I give 3 mg, it reduces by Z. Okay, I don't know how blood sugar is measured. I forgot the metric for it. I actually studied this for a while. But let's assume I have data for this and I have data for this. Okay, simple data. This is my random variable X. This is my random variable Y. Let's say this is X and this is Y. So I would say how much drug was given, or how much of the dosage is given, and how much is the reduction in blood sugar level. Some X here, 2, some Y here, 3, some Z here, and so on and so forth. Now, if I know that as the dosage increases, there is more reduction, there is also an increase in reduction, then this is very important observation, right? If I know this, people who have lot of blood sugar, I can give them higher dosage of the same medicine, because I know giving higher dosage will reduce their blood sugar levels to normal levels, isn't it? So experiments like this are done a lot even in medicine, right? These are a few examples of how correlation is important in data analysis in a wide spectrum of areas. So we have seen salary, right, and square footage for real estate. We have seen how governments can use this. We've seen how e-commerce companies use it. We've seen how medical and drug design companies and pharmaceutical companies and doctors can use this, right? These are just a few of the thousands and thousands of examples of how correlation is useful in the real world.